My name is John Sager, and this is with Groundworks Fitness. And my special guest today is Chuck Sandstrom, who has a very powerful, emotional story. And I'm honored to be sitting here with him today and going through this process and really becoming part of him and knowing what he's done and having him inspire me. So without further ado, Chuck, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for your time. And I kind of want to go into this and start with letting the viewers know and the audience know who you are and who you were. I mean, it's not even go there. It's just, who's Chuck Sandstrom?
For a little over 30 years, I was a pastor. And then I became the head of Barberton Community Foundation.
Very cool.
And that was a great way for me to find new friends. I always look at a person as a stranger, as a friend I haven't met yet.
That's awesome. For people who don't really know, what is a community foundation?
A community foundation is a bunch of money to help nonprofits.
Okay.
And our community foundation in Barberton had over $120 million.
Very cool. So you were in charge of not only a lot of projects, but also a lot of money.
Oh, that's right.
So what did you guys do with that money? What was the main reason or purpose for the community foundation?
Well, the main thing we did was to help nonprofits fund their programs.
Okay, very, very cool. And you said before you were part of the Barberton Community Foundation, you were also a pastor.
I was a pastor for 30 years in Findlay, Ohio. And when I went there, the church was like 150 people and struggling. And when I left, there was about 1,100 people, and we had built a new building, and we're doing great.
So people are probably wondering we already went over who Chuck Sandstrom is and what he's really accomplished in his life, but they're probably wondering what's with the stutter, what's going on. So let's kind of give them a little history on what happened, Chuck.
Okay, thank you. The reason I stutter and have this impression that doesn't seem so good is that I was in a coma for 6 weeks, and I own a rental property, and the guy whose car I noticed, he was loaning his car out to people, but I didn't know him, and I didn't know who owned the car that I had towed away.
Okay.
And the guy didn't like it, and so he came back and he beat me up.
Beat you up, and it said you were in a coma.
Yeah.
And how long were you in the coma for?
I was in there for 6 weeks, and I am so grateful that I live in Akron, which is one of the best places to be in a hospital.
In the hospital. So you had really good care. You had an injury that really impacted your life.
Yeah.
Do you remember any part of coming out of the coma and what that next stage was and what kind of
I can't remember anything about my injury or anything that happened initially. I really don't know about it at all, and that probably is a gift that God has given to me.
Does not remember that.
Right.
What was your first memory? What came about when you realized, or what was it?
When I saw my wife, Auburn, and I was able to blow her a kiss.
So that's the first thing you really remembered is once again the loving and compassionate Chuck coming out and being there. Do you remember any of your therapy and what the process was and what they said was going to happen and who Chuck Sandstrom was going to be 5 years from that day?
I don't think anybody really knew. And they sure didn't try to tell me.
They didn't tell you what was going to happen. Kind of going fast forward a little bit, Chuck, before we I want to fast forward a minute, then I want to come back.
All right.
What brought you here? And what made you decide to come this route?
I decided to come here because nobody was doing anything for me, and so I wanted to go where somebody would do something. And I had been told that you, John, are a hard-working guy, and I could come and become younger and stronger as a result of being here and working with you.
and I think you have. I think you've come a very long way. What if you can remember when we first started and how your progress went? Do you remember anything about the beginning and where you were in that stage of life?
I really don't remember it, but what I do know is that I was a little guy, and I don't know how heavy I was. Probably about 70 pounds or something, soaking wet. But I really don't remember much about that beginning, but I remember it now now I remember because I have a better body than I've ever had in my life, and I'm stronger than I've ever been in my life, and that's because of you, John Sager.
I appreciate
God bless you.
You said that you came out of therapy and you knew that you wanted to do more, you knew you wanted to go more. What was going on in your mind knowing that you can do that? Because if you look in the traditional medicine and therapy itself, they basically say this is as good as you're going to get. You're going to be in a wheelchair. And I know you've been told that you're going to be in a wheelchair, then it's basically who Chuck Sandstrom is going to be. Yeah. What triggered in your mind to say, you know what, I don't want to be like that?
It's just the who I am.
Who you are.
I decided that I want to be better.
You want to be better.
I want to be as good or better than I was before.
And how do you think you developed that mindset? Because so many people go through this process, and so many people are in your situation, but yet they don't have the same mindset that you have. What do you think separates it? What happens?
Well, it really has to happen before. And before I was injured, I was a go-getter. I was a number one guy, and I always wanted to be the best.
The best.
Yeah.
And that's helped you succeed throughout.
It has.
And you think that's played a huge role in your recovery?
It has. But mainly the best thing that has been in my recovery has been being associated with John Sager, because you were willing to see me for what I could be, not for what I was.
And I think that you bring up a really good point right there, because that's so true. And it's the fact that most people will look at you and say, Chuck Sandstrom has a disability.
Yeah, it's true.
I remember very clearly having a conversation with you one day saying, you don't have a disability. You have nothing. The only thing you have is just a different type of roadblock that we have to learn to come around.
Right.
And I think things triggered when that happened, and you decided, you know what, this can actually really work. And I think that's a huge thing, because you are such a wonderful person. And a lot of people will look at you right away and not realize that.
Right.
Because like I said, we talked about earlier, people want to put basically a social sign on you saying, that guy's disabled. He can't do this, he can't do that. And you sit back and you come out of this and you say, you know what, I can do this. I can be better than that, and I will. And if you had to sit there and tell somebody that is going through your situation, what's the biggest powerful words you could tell them?
Well, I would say the first thing that I learned how to do was to drive a car. And a guy that my physical therapist hired as a driver, he took his life in his own hand. But I passed the test with his help, and being able to do that has given me an independence And I come to the gym every day at 9:30 in the morning, and I drive myself.
You don't rely on anybody, you rely on yourself.
That's right. I'm very fortunate in that.
And it's so empowering to sit back and look at you past injury or your post injury and say, wow, this guy has done a lot. Not only have you driven, you've ran a 5K.
That's right.
You have the speaking engagements that you do, this business that you have, and like I said, most people would never even imagine that you could do that.
The guy with a speech impairment makes his living speaking.
Exactly.
That's a real funny thing, but it's true, because I want people to know that they can accomplish something greater than they ever have imagined.
And I think, I mean, you are living proof of that. And I want to backtrack just a little bit, because I think there's a huge key here that a lot of people don't know and that we're missing. And I want to go back to, let's talk about the power of forgiveness.
Yes.
Because I think that's very, very big, and I think that has a lot to do with who you really are.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about the power of forgiveness and why that's so important.
I am a very forgiving person, and I always haven't been that way. When the guy who is my mother's second husband shot her and killed her, I was very angry, and I never did forgive him until afterward. But the fact that I had an injury, my kids were talking about it, and they said, our dad is gonna forgive that guy. And lo and behold, that's exactly what I did.
And how did that make you feel? Because so many people go through this life, and I know I've done it too, where I don't want to get over it. I don't want to forgive. I don't want to accept that, but I know I have to, and we do. But what's the emotions behind that? How does that all come into play? Because it's amazing to sit back and look at you in your life and see that.
I never thought, it's okay, I'm going to forgive this guy. No. It becomes a major spiritual decision for me. I forgave this guy because it made me a stronger person spiritually. And that's why I did it.
Yeah. I think, I mean, for other people who don't know, I think not only did you forgive the guy, but you've done a lot for his family.
Right.
And I think let's talk a little bit about that and that process that you've done that most people don't really know.
Yeah, that's right.
What all have you done for his family?
The truth is, I love his family. The little kids and the boy who is flunking 3rd grade, I helped them in learning zone at the Salvation Army so that he could succeed in school. And the little girl who is just as cute as she can be, and I love those kids, and I want to have them be accepted for who they are, not for what their dad did.
Do you think you being an inspiration, I mean, does that ever come across your mind as Chuck Sandstrom's here to be an inspiration? Chuck Sandstrom's put on this earth to inspire people.
That doesn't ever come into my mind. It just happens because I do it. and I don't say, now tonight I'm going to go out and inspire some people. What I do is I tell people my story, and that story inspires them to want to cry or laugh or whatever, and I'm glad that they do.
So Chuck, you've been coming here for a couple years now, and you've had great success, and I think you've been a prime and a pivotal example to a lot of people that no matter what kind of injury that you have, no matter what your past is, there's always something that you can do to improve it. And like you stated earlier, it comes down to not accepting the limitations that other people want to put on you. Not accepting that, you know what, this is as good as it's going to get. Basically, knowing who you really are and using that as a power to drive you forward. How do you think fitness has impacted your life?
Well, I can't get away from you, John, because without you, I would not have been able to accomplish what I have done. But with your help and the help of your mom and dad, I love them. They're kind of like my own family. I have been able to accomplish some things that other people thought were impossible. But you know what? You are a great guy, because I come here every day and you always say, let's go. And I go and I try to do it and you say, you can. You can. I say, this is too hard. And you say, go and do it anyway. Or, this is too heavy, I can't lift it. Oh yes, you can. You say, and you push me and make me to be able to do what I can do, and I appreciate that, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, you've come a long way. Chuck, I think you have a powerful story. I think you've came and you've done a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next and who Chuck Sandstrom is really ultimately going to be, and
you bet,
whose lives he's going to impact, because you've impacted not only my life, my family's lives, and everyone here at Groundworks Fitness. I mean, you've been an inspiration to a lot of people, and I want to thank you for that. I want to make sure Chuck Sandstrom keeps moving forward, because it's amazing to sit back and watch this, and watch the guy come from who was supposed to be a vegetable to who he is now. And I think it's very, very fun and entertaining to watch that. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time being here today and telling your story and having you basically be the inspiration that we really, truly all need in our life.
Thank you very much. And I hope that it becomes an inspiration for other people who think their life is over, but believe this, your life is just beginning.
In the powerful, strong words of Chuck Sandstrom, your life is just beginning. My name is John Sagan. This is Groundworks Fitness. I want to thank you for watching.